I had just turned 24 when I inherited the house. It was one of those unexpected, borderline calls from a law office in Illinois. My uncle, whom I'd never met, had died. No wife, no children, and for some reason, I was the next of kin. The house was mine, but curiosity is a nasty thing. The house sat at the end of Rayborn Lane, an old stretch of cracked asphalt on the edge of a dying town called Population, barely 700. I drove there from Missouri in my rusted Toyota, hoping it'd be a short in-and-out trip. Sell the place, get some cash, move on. The first thing I noticed about the house, it was too quiet. Old Victorian style, 3 stories tall, sagging porch, pale green paint peeling like dead skin. The neighbors were few and far between, and none were visible when I pulled into the driveway. The only sound was the wind brushing dry leaves across the porch. I felt watched. From the second I stepped out of the car, the front door creaked open like a horror movie prop. Inside, dust, stale air, and something else, a scent I couldn't place. Sweet rot. I spent the first hour walking through the rooms, taking mental inventory. Living room with an ancient TV, kitchen full of expired canned food, an upstairs hallway with 6 doors. The last one at the end of the hall had a rusted lock on it, and like the rest. But I didn't open that door that night. Instead, I settled into a dusty armchair downstairs, exhausted, when I noticed something wedged under the couch cushions, a leather-bound journal. Its spine cracked when I opened it. February 12th. The shadows have learned my name. I heard them whisper it last night, there behind the mirror now, watching. There was no name written in the journal, but a few pages in, the entry signed off with A. Gibson. The name jolted me upright. Andre Gibson. My uncle. I didn't expect to be unnerved by the writing, but something about the scrawled letters was too real. The diary continued in bursts, some days with full entries, others just a phrase like, "They know when I sleep." There was a single drawing, too sloppy, inked with trembling hands. It showed a human face, but stretched, mouth open too wide, like it had been broken downward. A shadowy, eyeless figure was reaching through a mirror behind it. I should have stopped reading, but I didn't. The second night, I woke up around 3:12 a.m. to a sound, a low I thought it was the window, but it was the bathroom mirror. I walked into the bathroom with my phone flashlight, still half asleep. The mirror was fogged despite the fact I hadn't showered, but what chilled my bones was a message scrawled across the glass. "Stop reading, please." I stared. The glass was cold when I touched it. I slept in my car that night. The next morning, I decided to leave, but when I tried turning the ignition, my phone had no signal, no bars. For hello, it seemed. Didn't believe in modern survival. I went back inside, intended to grab my things and walk into town. Instead, I walked past the hallway again, and that locked door at the end was open. I didn't open it. I know I didn't. Inside was a small room, bare except for one thing, a mirror. It stretched from floor to ceiling, and sitting directly in front of it, cross-legged like a child at story time, was a man. No, his back was to me, his body to steel. The air felt wrong. "Sir?" I croaked. He didn't move. Then the man stood up, but his body didn't turn. His head turned first, and it kept turning. Too far. Bones didn't bend like that. Flesh shouldn't stretch like that. Then the mirror rippled, and the man stepped into it. I ran. I didn't grab my stuff, didn't pack the diary, just sprinted into the daylight, down the driveway, and onto the cracked road until my legs gave out. But when I looked behind me, the house was closer than it should have been, like it had followed me. I collapsed in the grass, screaming. A man from a neighboring property eventually found me, trembling and nearly incoherent. His name was Harlan, late 60s, wore denim overalls and smelled like smoke. "You saw something, didn't you?" he asked quietly. I stared at him, unable to speak. Harlan nodded. That house, it's got a memory, and it doesn't forget." He took me in for the night, gave me soup and let me sleep on his couch. Before I passed out, I asked him, "What was that thing in the mirror?" He sighed. "Not what. Son knew. That was Andrie. What's left of him." And then Harlan said the words that started everything. "You shouldn't have read the diary. That's how it gets in." I couldn't sleep at Harlan's, not because his place was uncomfortable. It was warm, quiet, and smelled faintly of woods, but because something inside me had shifted, like the house had touched me, like I brought something back with me. I kept hearing whispers in my left ear, even when no one was speaking. That night, I dreamt of the mirror room again, except this time, I was sitting in front of it. And behind the glass, a hand pressed against the other side, identical to mine, only darker, smiling. In the morning, Harlan made coffee and sat beside me at the kitchen table. "You saw the mirror room," he said. "That means it's started. It wants to finish what it did to I tried to sound sane. What the hell happened to him? Why did he go insane? That diary, was it even real?" Harlan looked away. Andrie was brilliant. Curious. Too curious. He found something in that house. Something that didn't belong to this world. The mirror was just a gate. The diary, that was the key. "What do you mean, gate?" Harlan pointed to the coffee in front of me. "Take that cup. Now imagine if that cup could hold more than just coffee. Imagine if it could hold something alive, something old. Now imagine that cup wants you to drink from it." I swallowed. "I burned the first pages," I said suddenly. "When I got back from the mirror room, I panicked, tore them out and lit them with a match. They turned to ash." Harlan's face paled. "You burned it?" "Yes." "Why? I thought that would stop it." Harlan stood, pacing now. "You don't understand. The diary wasn't just a record. It was a seal. You cracked it open by reading it, and burning those pages means it's free to finish what it started." I felt like I need to destroy that mirror. Harlan looked at me. "No, you don't go back in there." But I already knew I would. Later that day, I walked back up Rayborn Lane. The house looked different, taller, maybe. The windows darker. The wind didn't move around. It had seemed to avoid it. But the front door, it was unlocked. Why, the diary was where I left it, open to the last burned page. But beneath the ashes, a new entry had formed. Fresh ink, still wet. "He's coming for me again. He knows I broke the rules. He knows I told the truth. If you're reading this, stop. Bury the mirror. Do not speak its name. Do not answer when it whispers. Andre Gibson." Below it, written in smaller script, "Track the ink. Follow the cracks." The words made no sense until I noticed it fine black veins seeping from the last page, like spider legs, stretching outward. They ran across the diary's spine, down the coffee table, and up the wall, toward the mirror room. I followed them. The mirror no longer reflected. It was pitch black, like a window into a dead sky. I stared into it, and for a second, I thought it showed me nothing. Then, something moved behind the surface. It was me, but not me. My reflection blinked when I didn't. Its eyes glowed faintly, and then it smiled. I stepped back. It stepped forward. Its hand pressed against the glass. Mine didn't. And then a new voice entered the room. Not a whisper, a rasp. "Finish it." The diary flipped open again on its own, pages fluttering, ink spilling across them like veins bursting. I watched as lines wrote themselves. "One soul must remain. One must always watch." That's when I understood. Andrie hadn't gone insane. He had been trapped. Suddenly, everything in the room went cold. My breath came out in fog. The air smelled of rotting meat and old paper. Then crack a sound behind me. I spun around. Harlan, standing in the doorway, a shotgun in his hands, his face pale, his shirt damp with sweat. "You followed it," he said grimly. "I had to," I whispered. "He's still in there." Harlan raised the gun toward the mirror. No more. But before he could fire, the glass rippled violently, and from it stepped Andre Gibson, or the thing wearing his skin. Its face was stretched too wide, like a man Its hands were long, fingers twisted. Its chest rose and fell too fast, like something learning how to breathe again. Harlan didn't hesitate, pulled the trigger. The blast knocked it back, but the mirror didn't shatter. The creature didn't fall. It laughed. Blood bubbled from its mouth, but it didn't care. "You broke the seal. I am allowed to stay." It lunged for Harlan. I don't remember how long we fought, only that Harlan screamed once. A short, wet crayon Dan was dragged halfway through the mirror. Only his arm remained, twitching. I grabbed the diary and ran. Back at Harlan's house, I locked every door and sat in the middle of his living room, trembling. The diary was still with me, but it had changed. The cover now bore my name, property of your name. The pages began filling again, one line at a time. The last entry, written in my handwriting, but I hadn't written it. "Tomorrow, I forget, but the mirror will remember, and it will wait. It always waits." 3 days later, I was committed. Harlan's death, the shotgun blast, the blood, all of it was real. But my story wasn't. At least not to the sheriff, not to the ER nurse, not to the state-appointed therapist who sat across from me and asked why I claimed a mirror ate a man. They called it trauma-induced dissociation, labeled me a danger to myself and put me on suicide watch. But the truth, the mirror followed me. The psychiatric facility was located 2 towns over from Fairhollow Modern Stereo. Smooth beige walls that looked like they'd been scrubbed of every trace of memory. I was on the 3rd floor, room 308. There was a mirror above the sink. Not a big one, just large enough to brush your teeth in, but big enough to see someone behind you. I asked the nurse to remove it. She laughed, said she'd write a note, but the mirror stayed. On the 2nd night, I woke up around 2:47 a.m. Someone was humming, low, crooked melody, like a lullaby from a language no one speaks anymore. I sat up in the cot, sweating. My roommate Paul, a silent man who hadn't spoken since I got there, was still asleep. But the mirror was fog, and a message was written across the glass in perfect, mirrored cursive. I'm here now. The next morning, Paul was gone. Not discharged, not relocated. Gone. The orderlies couldn't explain it. One said he must have slipped past security, but there were no signs of entry or exit. His shoes were still under the bed, his blanket still folded, but the mirror, it was clean. No fog, no writing, just my reflection. Only I wasn't smiling. Over the next few days, things got worse. The diary appeared on my bed again. I didn't bring it here. I didn't hide it in my clothes. But there it was, resting calmly on the white linen sheets, just like it had in that god-forsaken house. The cover had changed again. It no longer said property of your name. It now read, Watcher. Host. I tried burning it again, flushing it, ripping it to pieces. Each time I destroyed it, it returned. And every time it came back, a new entry had formed in that awful, scribbled ink. Let me in. You're already mine. I begged the staff to remove all mirrors. Eventually, they complied. My room was cleared, but it didn't matter, because every reflective surface became a mirror. My spoon, the polished tile in the hallway, even the puddle of water near the shower drain. One night, I saw a hand press up through it, dragging long claws against the surface. It left a scratch, not on the floor, on my arm. That night, I decided to stop running. I returned to the journal. This time, I read every page front to back. Even the pages I knew weren't there before. Pages filled with screaming words, burned out ink, and paragraphs that read like confessions made under torture. And one sentence repeated again and again. One must watch. One must remain. Andrie had been the last. Now it was my turn. I returned to walked the road back up to Rayburn Lane, though the house was supposed to be sealed off by authorities, but it wasn't. The police tape was torn. The boards on the front door were removed. The house was waiting, and this time I wasn't afraid, because fear is for those who can leave. I couldn't. The mirror room was darker now. No light, no reflection, just a black void inside the frame, pulsing softly like a breathing lung. The diary was already on the floor, open to the final page. There was no ink, just a handprint, burned into the paper, as if someone had pressed their hand to it and dissolved into ash. I knelt down and I placed my hand over it. The mirror didn't ripple. It opened. I walked through, and on the other side, I saw them, hundreds of mirrors, stretching into infinity. Some cracked, some screaming, all showing different faces. People trapped behind the glass, laughing, clawing to get out. And in the center, a chair, and a man, sitting in it. Andrie, or what was left of him. His skin was paper thin. His eyes wept blood, but he smiled. You came, he rasped. I didn't have a choice, I said. You did, he whispered, but you chose the truth. Then he stood, placed the diary in my hands, and walked backward into a mirror behind him. He was gone, and the chair was now mine. So I sit here, watching. Every few minutes, I see another mirror ripple, someone on the other side peeking in, another curious soul reading the diary, whispering the name of the house, watching for shadows in glass. The mirror remembers, and when they stare long enough, I smile back.